Welcome to a commentary tutorial for Shinobi 3 for the Genesis. And yeah, this is one of my favorite games on the Genesis. I actually did this run, might have been a year ago. It wasn't super recent, so I'm just going to be going off of, watching it and commenting as I watch the video, because I don't remember everything exactly. But if you want to see a great run of this game, check out the world record run from the Ripper 999 on his YouTube channel. I believe he does it in under 30 minutes with no shurikens. So if you want to see a really masterful run of the game, check that video. For this video, it's just going to be me, doing a normal playthrough, because I'm not an expert at this game or anything. So it's going to be just a normal playthrough, and I edited out the deaths and the ending for this commentary version because I wanted to keep it at about an hour so that it just gets to the point and shows the successful gameplay segments, not all the deaths. If you want to see all the deaths I had in my run, you can see the full run on my channel as well. Just search Shinobi 3 and it'll come up, and you'll see a version without commentary, and that'll be the full unedited version. So yeah, I'll post a link in the description for the Ripper 999 for his channel, and yeah, that's going to be a much better run than this. But yeah, for these guys, if you're using shurikens, you can just double jump and get those hits in when the wave is out, and that'll hit those guys, and you can just keep doing that until they die. They're very easy to take out. There's much faster ways to take them out by getting up close with the sword, but you don't have to do that. You can do it either way. Yeah, this game's not too difficult. I had beaten it a long time ago on easy difficulty many years ago, but I used save and load states on one part, so it wasn't legit. There was a jumping segment near the end of the game that I used save and load states on. So I wanted to go back and re-legitimize it, so I just put it on normal, and it didn't take me too long to adjust to the game again and to beat it. I was just looking to beat the game. But yeah, same thing here with those guys. It looks like you can lock them into a combo too with either the sword or the shuriken once you get that first hit. So I probably could have done that when I initially got to him. The game gets tricky a little bit later on. I didn't lose a life until a little bit, like maybe halfway through the game, because you have some tricky platforming. That's the main, I would say that's the main thing that's difficult in this game. At certain points, there's some tricky platforming, but nothing crazy. But there's a few tricky parts. For this guy, you just hit him when his swords are down. When they're up, it means he's going to block your attack. So you just wait for him to have an opening. His swords will spread apart, and that's when you can get in a hit. You can either do a double jump with the shuriken, or you can probably slice him with your sword too. But I usually just use shurikens. You can also use your magics, of course, but you really don't need to for this guy. He's a very easy boss. Of course, just jump over him when he comes through. As far as the controls, if you haven't played these games before, if you tap jump twice, you'll double jump, but you have to hit the second jump command at the peak of your jump to get the double jump. You can't just hit jump twice in a row real fast. You have to time it at the peak of the jump. And then when you do that spin in the air, that double jump, you can hit the shuriken button and throw out like 10 shurikens at once. You don't want to use that too much, though, because you can really waste a lot of shurikens by doing it constantly. But it can be good when you're trying to jump platforms to clear your way so that you don't get knocked into a pit. This sequence is pretty easy. You're basically just going to be dodging obstacles and killing the ninjas as they appear. Whenever you see the flashing icon on screen, it means that there's a hurdle coming up, so get ready to jump over it. But yeah, the Ripper, he really did a great playthrough. I mean, you know, it's top notch. I believe he has a world record for the no shuriken version. And he's played the shit out of this game, so he really mastered it. But this run will be more doable for those that haven't, you know, played the shit out of the game. But yeah, I went through all the Shinobi games on the Genesis, you know, Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3, which are pretty much in that Super Shinobi series. They're called Super Shinobi, these games in Japan. And then Shadow Dancer is on Genesis, but that's more tied into the original arcade versions of Shinobi, which play very differently. They're like one-hit death type of games. And Shadow Dancer, I would say, is the hardest of the three on the Genesis. It can be tough with the one-hit deaths, and it gets tough at the end. This one might be the easiest, because I think Revenge of Shinobi was harder than this. I think this is the easiest of the three on Genesis. You can also use the horse as a weapon in midair. You know, he has kind of a jump kick type of move. So get some health back in that box. The shield guys, a lot of times I'll just keep jump kicking them until I get through or until I kill them. You can just keep jump kicking in midair, so you can kind of just bounce off of them for a while. It's a sloppy way to do it, but you know, that's always what I've done on them. You can also really utilize the suicide magic. It does kill off one of your lives, though, so you don't want to abuse it. But if you're having trouble with a specific boss, you can use a few of those suicide magics, because every time you use one, you get your magic back and you get all your health back. But of course, you know, you destroy one of your lives. But you know, if you're really bad at a boss, you can always use a few of those if you have extra lives. Something to consider. I did that a few times with bosses that I didn't really learn, and I was kind of cheap. You do have to use the suicide magic during the boss's opening, though. If the boss can't be hit at that time, then I don't think it'll do anything. So keep those things in mind if you are going to try to use it or utilize it. Now here it's just, you know, kind of basic ascension. You know, you jump up on these, I don't know if you call them wires, but you grab onto the platforms and you just ascend up. The main thing you have to be careful of is getting knocked into the pits and guys that will try to prevent you from moving up. Because if the screen moves up and you're not all the way up, you'll get crushed by the screen. So that's the main, the main issue on these sections. I do remember these used to be kind of challenging for me when I was younger, but this was very easy for me recently. So it'll vary depending on, you know, your general skill level with these kind of games and things like that. But yeah, it's good to try to take those guys out as soon as you can, so that by the time you get up there, they're not going to be in your way. So try to get them out of there if you can. Otherwise, they'll knock you down like that, and then if the screen goes up too high, you know, you won't be able to climb up, and that can be the main way that I used to die on this level, so, or on this part anyway. So, you know, I'd recommend trying to avoid that. This boss is very easy. You know, when it's fully formed and not in that shadow form, just hit it with a shuriken. And if you keep throwing out a lot of shurikens, you should be like hitting it a lot. Just try to keep moving and not get hit by its, you know, attacks. But And of course not touch the thing itself, but it's a really easy boss, and if you're really having trouble with it, you of course, can use your magic if you want to waste it. The lightning magic that you see equipped, you initiate that by pressing A, and it's basically just invincibility, so that'll give you some time to be invincible if you want to use it. But this boss should not be hard. But it's an option, or you can use the other magic, which is fire poles, which will do a lot of damage, or you can waste your suicide magic, but I really don't recommend using it for that boss. Jump magic won't do anything. Jump magic gives you increased jump height for a period of time. So there's a few different magics, and I'm sure I'll be showing some of them. Again, I'm revisiting this a while later, so I don't remember everything that I did. But I'm just watching it and trying to break it down as I see it. I would have done it fresh, but I didn't have a microphone back then, so I didn't end up doing commentary. So I have gone back to a few games that I beat and did late commentary on them, where it's not going to be fresh in my mind, but I figured it might make the videos entertaining, and I may be able to remember some things that people watching the video may not pick up on right away. So, not a very complex game, obviously, but there are definitely things you can do to make sections a lot easier. If you do play the game on easy, one of the differences, you'll get 9 lives on each continue. So if you're having trouble with normal, or you just want to learn the game, maybe start and beat the game on easy first as a practice. I would also recommend, you could do that, but I'd also recommend playing on an emulator and using save and load states so you can practice any sections that are giving you trouble. Go through the game once with save and load states, especially the jumping scenes near the end. You're probably going to have a lot of trouble on those initially. And then after you've gone through and you're satisfied with your practice, just start doing full runs on the game until you beat it, and you'll probably beat it after a few full attempts, if not the first full attempt, depending on how well you practice it. But it's a much more efficient way to practice with save and load states than, continuously getting back to the same part and dying and having to start over like the game wants you to. You don't have to play by those rules. If you're playing on an emulator, you can practice much more efficiently. And just redo a section, 10 times if you need to, or whatever the case is, until you're fairly comfortable with it. This part can be a little tricky, but if you take your time, it shouldn't be hard. Obviously don't want to touch those lightnings, so just, try to focus on landing on a conveyor belt, not landing on those things. Just take your time. And you can grab that thing pretty early, that conveyor belt at the top. And there's some items here to the left. I don't remember what those were, but they're not harmful, at least. Sometimes you get bombs in the boxes, which you want to avoid, obviously. I think that may have been a 1-up or a magic, one or the other. I couldn't see what it was, but it was a good item, worth getting, whatever it was. Here you're just going to stay in the left corner and just kind of defend this area. That's all you really have to do. You want to try to take them out before they get up to where you're at, and just stay all the way in the back. It's very easy. If you try to get up close to them and fight them, you can take damage, but it's really not necessary. Very easy part. These guys are tricky. They like to grab you, and the boss is tricky too, so you can jump kick them and kill them before you pass. It makes it a lot easier to run through this area. If you try to run through and ignore them, it's very easy to get grabbed. So, do that at your own risk. But I liked actually killing them first and then moving through. If you watch the Ripper speedrun, of course, he doesn't waste any time killing those guys. But if you're just trying to beat the game, it's a good way to play it, safe way to do it. Also, watch out for that reticle. Don't let it stay on you for too long or you'll get hit by some shit. That boss in the background likes to shoot you with something. This guy can be tricky. I don't even know if I ever really learned how to play him well. I always played really sloppy on this guy. But basically when his eyes are fully open is when you can hit him. I think you got to shoot him in the eye. And you're not going to get any good advice from me on how to play this guy well. I was never good at him or really learned it, so I basically just try to jump and hit it when it's open. It's really not that hard, but it's a little tricky. I remember when I was younger, I think I used to drain a lot of lives and sometimes die on it. It's not, I was never good at it, but just trying to dodge what I see, it was easy enough. And you can use your fire magic. Just use it when his eyes are fully open. Otherwise, it just won't even damage him. You got to use it when he's open to being hurt. I wouldn't recommend wasting your suicide magic on this guy unless you're down to your last bar of health or something and you're about to die. Then just use it when his eyes are open if you can, because it's good to use suicide magic when you're about to die because you'll get your life bar refilled and your magic back. So keep that in mind. If you're really close to dying, you may just want to use your suicide magic. That way you don't have to start back at the last checkpoint. You can just continue playing. So that may be a good use for the suicide magic. If you have to have one magic available to be able to use it. But once you use it, you'll get your magic back and your life will be back. But you'll just waste one of your life supply. But sometimes it may be worth doing. I didn't really utilize that like I could have in this run. There are a few parts, I'm sure, where I died where I could have used it. A lot of times I got knocked in holes is when I died, not so much by losing all my health. But I would use it on bosses when my health got low, because I wasn't too good at some of the bosses. This is similar to the horse scene. When you see those little icons, just jump, get ready to jump off the ramp. You go up on the ramp and just hit jump when you're on like the peak of the ramp, and you'll make a nice jump. You also want to, of course, kill these guys when you can, but you do get to collect some good items in the air. Health and shurikens and various things. It's more almost like a bonus stage at this point. The bosses are hard, though. The bosses can be kind of tricky. I don't think I did too well on the boss of the level. I was never good at that, those boss fights. But, it'll be good enough. I mean, this is not the tightest playthrough, that's for sure, but I think it does show. There's a one-up. It shows, there's a one-up up there, so make sure you get that on that jump. But, it gives you a good idea of what to do if you're just looking for a normal playthrough with no crazy maneuvers or anything, I mean, I don't do anything too complex in this run because like I said, I'm not that good at this game. I've only beaten it maybe twice. I think this was my second time beating it, so my first time beating it legit. So, because I did cheat on one part my first time through on easy. But yeah, for this guy, just try to hit him when he's open and try to dodge what you can. But I really don't have any good advice really to offer aside from that. He doesn't take that many hits, so if you have a decent health bar, you should be able to bullshit your way through. This part can be tricky. I found this to be one of the tougher parts because there's a lot of parts where they set it up where the enemy is just trying to knock. He's just he's in an area just to knock you in a pit. That's pretty much the whole purpose of some of these enemies. So don't fall in the water, obviously. That's instant death. But you can stand on the barrels. You're going to have to... You don't want them to go down too far. Of course, you'll die from that as well. So you got to be careful with that. But there is parts where the enemies are positioned just to knock you in the holes. So that does make this area kind of challenging. It's not too, I didn't find it to be too difficult, but I remember having a lot of trouble with it when I was younger. So it's going to vary depending on the player. Watch out for those bombs, of course, that have a timer on them. You may want to get that to get some extra shurikens. The Ripper's run is a lot more interesting since he doesn't use shurikens. He has to kill everything with the sword, including the bosses. And he does everything in under 30 minutes, I believe. So, like I said, I really recommend watching that run. But yeah, you probably won't have too much of an issue as far as losing all your health. But when you deal with these winged guys and other various assholes, over water, there's always a chance that things can get messy. I don't believe there's any checkpoints in most of these levels. So, you get checkpoints usually when you get to a new section. But You know, this is a pretty big section, so you don't want to fuck up at the end. So try to carefully make take those guys out before they can get to you, obviously. The winged guys are the biggest pain in the ass, I think, on this area from what I remember. And from what I'm seeing here, they look like a nuisance. But try to play carefully and, throw out those shurikens to try to hit shit before it gets to you. Wait for the bombs to detonate, obviously. There's no point of getting close to them. You're not timed on the levels, so just take your time. No need to try to run through everything and get sloppy. That was definitely a mistake. I mean, it would have been useful to have that extra magic. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I was getting pissed off at those things. It looked like it killed those steam spitting things. I might have been dying on that part and got pissed off and decided to destroy them. So I'm not sure if that was an accidental discharge, a premature ejaculation. I'm not sure. I mean, at first I thought it was, but after I saw those things get destroyed, I'm thinking maybe I did that intentionally. But it didn't look like that would have been that hard of a part to jump through, to dodge. So I'm thinking I probably hit the button by accident. But I can't remember. But yeah, there's a one-up up here in this little alternate path, so I'd recommend getting that unless, of course, if you're familiar with the game, you're not going to really need this advice. So yeah, you see this section does go on for quite a while, and then there's bullshit like that. That's very dangerous. You could also maybe use jump magic, but that may also, you may jump too high and hit into those steam and other bullshit, so I don't know if I would recommend that. Maybe. It's something to consider. You could try it. It may help you, but I would probably just learn how to do it the normal way. So here, yeah, you can just go up there, and I don't know if there's anything over to that left side, if there's any good items or anything. I don't remember. There's obviously a lot of little alternate paths you can take to get more items and shit like that, if you want. I don't like to, as if you've seen my videos, I don't like to spend a lot of time going on alternate paths or collecting shit. I'm really not into that at all. I mean, I will if the game is hard and I need one-ups or something, but for this, I like to just bounce off of them initially and take the missile hits. I know it's very fucking sloppy, but it does hurt them. I've always played him like this. It's probably a really shitty way to play this boss, but this is just something I've always done on the guy. I was never good at these bosses at all. Never really that good at this game, It's not a game that I mastered at all. But, it does take care of that first form. You're probably not going to have a lot of health left after the first form, though, after doing that shitty technique. But, let's see what I continued. I think I continue to bounce off of the boss with the surfboard. Yeah, I believe I go back to doing that because I don't really know what I'm doing on this boss. Now, because I didn't have any magic, well, there's some health at least. I got some health back. So make sure you get that health if you need it. But yeah, you'll probably play it better than I'm playing it. I'm obviously not. I mean, see, I'm able to dodge those by zigzagging. You stay on the right, the right end of the screen, and then you can kind of move back when the fourth missile comes in, and you can dodge those pretty easily. I remember, but it does go on for a little while. Had I not wasted that magic, I'm sure it would have been pretty useful. I can't even do a suicide magic here, so I'm forced to just beat it without any cheap tricks. But it does go on for a while. It could be a tricky boss. I think it's one of the harder bosses, from what I remember. It always was for me, one of the more difficult bosses. But there's much better ways to play it. The Ripper kills it real fast by using the sword at close range and slices the shit out of it. And he can kill it really, really fucking fast. And I'm not sure how hard it is to pull it off by getting up close with the sword and doing that. It may be safer than what I was doing, but I'm not sure. It may also be really dangerous because, speedrunners do a lot of real risky techniques to get fast times. So sometimes it looks a lot easier than it is. Most of the time it does with speedruns. So since I haven't tried doing that, I can't speak on if that would be a more efficient method for like a player that's unexperienced with the game. But it is something to consider. That's why I say watch his run, and you may learn some things that you can use in that run as well. Some useful tactics. Or most of it may be too difficult to pull off, for somebody who's not playing the game a lot, but just, check it out and see. For this part, you just need to, like, when you get on the top of those exploding tanks, just, get away from them. That's about it. And just take out the enemies. Nothing too challenging in this section. It's a pretty damn easy section from what I remember. I think those are mines, yeah, so avoid those, obviously. Avoid the things that spit out the tops. But yeah, you get some health and shit like that. It's a pretty damn easy section. I don't think it's going to be too challenging for anyone. The mortar guys are probably the main issue, the main annoyance, but it's still very easy. It's always good to throw out some shurikens in the distance just to hit whatever, whatever's out there and, try to move slow and carefully. It does go on for a little while, but, you get a nice amount of health pickups in shurikens, so, it shouldn't be too hard. Definitely one of my favorite games on the system. I owned it when the game came out, and I fucking love the game. It's classic, amazing soundtrack, game, art style, environment, everything. The gameplay is very tight. It does play better than Revenge of Shinobi because of the running and some of the extra moves and things that you have. Definitely are improvements, like the jump kick, things like that. You can even block, but I didn't even mention that because I never used it. And I probably never would, but I suppose it's an option. It's probably useful for something. But I believe you can block, I just never used it. I'm more of an, aggressive, offensive type of player in games when I can. But yeah, that guy's not too hard. I mean, just dodge him, throw some shurikens, jump kick him. I mean, if you need to use a suicide magic if you're about to die, at least you won't die. And then you won't have to redo that whole section. And you'll resume playing with a full life bar, so. I'm pretty sure when you use suicide magic, it gives you all your life back, from what I remember. Of course, once you start playing around with the suicide magic, you have to have some extra lives remaining to play around with it. So, it's good to have a few one-ups that you can use later as some suicide magics, because suicide magic is the most powerful magic. But of course, it also wastes one of your lives, so it's good to use it when you're right about to die. That's the most effective time to use it, because so that you can get all your, you can get in as much progress as you can make on that life before you're about to die. This part's not too hard. You just had to let the bombs make the bombs detonate by opening the boxes and then just move through. And I don't remember these parts being too tricky. The Godzilla boss, I think, was kind of challenging. I was never good at that either. I think I do use some suicide magic just because I'm bad at a lot of the boss fights. So you really don't have to master the boss fights to beat this game, as you'll see in my playthrough. Because, I really didn't have them down well at all. I just got the game down, good enough to what I needed to do to beat the game, and that was about it. I didn't even really practice a lot of the bosses with save states, I don't think. I didn't practice the game a lot. The main thing I practiced was these platforming near the end, I think, because that's what I needed to make sure that I had down. Those are the main parts that were holding me up. I think also the rock level gave me some trouble, where you're ascending on rocks, and you have to jump on the rock platforms. I think I might have practiced that too, but that was the main kind of shit that I had issues with. Recently, of course in the past I had issues with all kinds of parts of the game, but I kind of blazed this game when I played it again recently. I got through most parts pretty easily. But yeah, just make your way to the end here. And you're going to be climbing up again and, deal with the enemies. A lot of the bombs have a lot of the boxes have bombs in them, so just be aware of that. Don't get too close to the boxes. I think most of them have bombs in them, so, It seems that way anyway. A lot of the bombs are required because, you You have to destroy these beams. But yeah, not much to say here. You see I'm surviving on a very small amount of life for a while now. So it's pretty easy to avoid taking damage in this area. It's mostly, you don't want to like get hit by the bombs or fall in a pit or something. I think there's a few parts that are kind of tricky with the machine gun fire. So like there's parts that where, if you don't kill the guys first, or the guys may be in the way sometimes. I think there's some parts where it's hard to get in the hit on the guy and sometimes, you take damage, but just try to play carefully. If you keep throwing shurikens out, you'll clear most of the enemies out before they have a chance to shoot you. That's why you see me throwing a lot of... See, I think I did take a hit there. I don't know how I survived that because I had very little life, but maybe I deflected it with the shuriken. I'm not sure what happened. But yeah, see, I just keep throwing shurikens because I don't know what's coming up next exactly. I know the enemies are coming up at some point, but not exactly when. So just to be careful. It's a good way to play carefully. And like I said, I can't afford to take damage at this point, so I'm just being really careful. I think I got to this section with very little life, though, as well. If I had died, I could have probably started on this section with full life, but, if I can stay alive, I will. I think you have to go back around at this point, and you have to destroy part of the beam with the bomb. You have to, get one of these bombs out. From what I remember. So if you don't know that, actually no, I already destroyed it. I must have already hit the bomb through the wall, or I hit it at some point. You have to make sure that bomb was detonated to get through there, though, I think. But yeah, not much to say except for you're pretty much just going to follow what you see me doing. The path and the method is not going to be anything too complicated in these sections. I think you have to go back around this way. Yeah. Again, I'm seeing this again for the first time in a while. I did watch the Rippers run recently, speed run, but, I don't remember everything exactly. I don't really have the game memorized. Even back then, I didn't have it memorized that well. You don't really have to learn it that well to beat it, but you do want to at least learn the hard platforming parts. Those are the parts that can really, fuck up your runs, and then you have to start the game over. So, I'd say use save and load states to practice those parts and anything that gives you any kind of trouble. See, that part's a little tricky. But if you get that shuriken in there, you won't get killed. You want to be careful, though. If you have, no life like I do, you got to be very careful and try to take those guys out fast. I was able to creep my way through all these sections without getting hit, so that was good. It's really not hard. It just takes a little time. You got to destroy that beam and then you go back around. There's going to be, a decent amount of that in this level where you have to sometimes go in a different route and destroy a bomb. And then go back around. I think it's down this way. Yeah, now I can go up in this passage. Oh, there's a 1-up up there, so that's worth getting. You can always use that as ammunition if you want to spam suicide magic too, but you'll see me do that. Since I had more trouble with some of the bosses than I did with a lot of the levels, since I didn't learn the bosses too well. I should have practiced more, and actually learned the bosses and got good at them, but I just didn't give a shit because I knew that I was good enough at the game to beat it. Because the main issue that I had was the platforming shit, and I knew I could abuse the magic and shit like that to get through. So I didn't, I wasn't trying to do a masterful run or anything. I just wanted to beat the game. But you'll definitely see how sloppy I am on some of these bosses. The lack of practice will definitely shine through. If you don't have any life like me, just be very careful. You see, I've survived for quite a long time with no life. Or 1 bar of health. I beat, a bunch of sections with just 1 bar of health. So now here's the boss, I believe. And, it looks like you get your health back for this part. Oh, no, you know what? I think I edited out a death. I think that's why all my health is back. Because I edited out deaths for this run. I think you get to start at the boss. I think it's a checkpoint if you get to the boss. I think so. But, yeah, no good tips here except, you know, hit him in the head. It's about all. I guess you can destroy those orbs with the shurikens like you see me doing. That works. It's a little risky, but I guess it works if you time it right. And I guess I was starting to get into a rhythm here with that method. But it's pretty sloppy. Okay, getting up close, I'm able to get in some good sword slashes. I guess that's good. I wasn't really dodging the fire, though, or anything, so that was pretty fucking sloppy. So, yeah, now that my health is getting low, I think I use suicide magic. So you'll get to see how that works. See, massive damage, I get my health back and my magic back, so... Now I can fight him with a full health bar and finish off the rest of his, I think you have to slice him in the chest or something at this point. Yeah, see, I wasn't close enough. So, yeah. Easier, I think, than the first form. Because he doesn't... the only move he can really do is shoot those 3 little balls at you. Yeah. I'm sure he's not that hard if I would have took some time to learn it better, you know. But it wasn't like a huge life expenditure or anything. It wasn't a big deal. You know, see, this is where it's hard. This is one of the harder levels. It's all platforming pretty much and a boss fight. But yeah, I recommend using jump magic for this just to make things a lot more manageable. You'll have more time to float around in the air and land your jumps, so... I do recommend using that. It is beatable without jump magic, but you have to really be precise with your double jumps. And, you know, if you miss a double jump, sometimes it's hard, you know, if you don't hit him at the peak of your jump and you don't get the double jump input, it pretty much can mean death. So it can be very hard without the jump magic. But it is doable. Try to stay in the center of the platform so that if you do get hit, or stay on the, you know, stay on the edge that you're not going to get knocked back to, because you want to have some room in case you do get hit. Otherwise, you'll just get knocked off the platform and die. So, try to plan ahead for that. You know, if you are going to take a hit, you know, have a backup plan so that you don't get knocked back off the platform, and that'll buy you some survival. You won't, you know, die at least. Because the main issue is not going to be losing health in this part. You're not going to take so much damage that you're going to die. You're probably going to get knocked in a pit or miss a platform in your jump. So just be ready for those assholes. Because they're all pretty much set up to try to knock you off the rocks and into the hole. So that's the main challenge. I mean, it's not that hard, but it's a tricky part. You can get far in it and there's no checkpoint, and then you just get knocked in a hole and have to start it over. So yeah, it's a little bit of a tough part. I know even when the Ripper was doing his speed runs, you know, if he was going to lose a life, sometimes he would lose a life on this level. Because it can be kind of a pain in the ass. If you miscalculate something. I think I did some cheap shit on the boss. I may even use suicide magic on him. I don't remember what I did exactly. I haven't watched my run of the game in a while, so... See, I almost died there. I luckily landed on a rock. And now here's the boss. Okay, so I still have the jump magic activated, which may be helpful on him. I don't really remember. I think it allows you to get in more hits because you can hit him up higher. So I guess it's useful to have the jump magic still equipped. I still had it on from when I activated it. I don't think it goes away unless you die. So, or maybe get to another... It may go away in the next section, but I'm not sure. Or after you beat a level. So with the jump magic, just try to jump up and hit him when you can. And stay in the, you know, I like to stay on one side of the screen, the left side. And just keep throwing out those shurikens and keep jumping, you know. I don't think it's too difficult. If you don't have any magic left, then, you can't use any of your offensive magics, like the suicide or the fire magic, or the invincibility magic can be useful, but you don't really, you shouldn't need them. I don't think you can combine the invincibility with the jump magic. I think you have to pick one or the other. But I'm not sure. But I think this guy's pretty damn easy. The main issue is that if you're, like, messing around in the middle, you may get knocked into the hole. If you stay on the left side, I think you're pretty safe. And eventually he will die. The main challenge is getting to the boss, because the platforming can be tricky on that level. But it's a short stage. Or maybe it doesn't count as a stage. I guess it doesn't count as a level. But it is a tricky area. And I think here you can just go up to the top and climb along the ceiling if you double jump up to the ceiling and just climb past everything. Though I'm not sure. I don't remember if that's... I think I saw the Ripper do that, but I'm not even sure. So yeah, you're going to have to do some platforming here and get up on these, in these areas. The main annoyance, again, is going to be assholes trying to knock you off. You won't die, but you'll have to restart the, the platforming again and climb up the box again. Make sure you don't destroy the boxes, because you need them to climb up. You may be able to exit and re-enter the room and reset the boxes, but I don't remember it. So I recommend, not destroying them. Sometimes I'll just take the hit and stand on the spike so that I can just jump off of the spike during my invincibility frames. Because after you get hit, you do have a few seconds or so of invincibility. So sometimes I will utilize that to bypass something. But, try to make your way through the enemies. Take the hits if you need to and just keep moving. Okay, there's some items here, so I guess the health would be useful. For this part, you may have to take certain doors. I don't remember if it was a maze. But a lot of times they'll have maze-like levels where you have to take certain doors in a certain order. So if it is, I would just recommend following the path that I take if you're watching my video. Because it's, that's going to be the path that eventually leads to the end. You can grab the health and stay alive as I was doing. I think up here was the appropriate door. I believe it is a maze, because you see I'm skipping certain doors. So I may have even, taken some wrong turns. I'm not even sure if I did everything right. Because it looks like an area that I've been to before. So I probably fucked up. So yeah, maybe don't use my video may not be a good video to use for these maze type of levels. I'm usually not too good at these fucking kind of levels. So yeah, probably be better off watching like a speed run or just a better playthrough of this level. I mean, eventually I do find the correct path. So I'm not sure when that is. Because, yeah, it looks like I'm still going in circles at this point. Okay, yeah, and eventually I did die, so that's why all my health came back. I edited out the deaths. I should have edited it down to like the correct path to take, but that would have been tricky to do. Because I don't even remember what the correct path was. Like I said, for this maze-like level, you should probably, check a different video that has a better route. That's why, another reason why I'll recommend the Ripper's playthrough, because at least he'll show the correct path. Since it's a speed run, he doesn't take any wrong turns or anything like that, so... for that kind of shit, definitely be useful to watch. I think this run will be more useful for entertainment than the best way to play the game, The game really isn't that hard. Okay, maybe I use it. Yeah, I use invincibility magic here. This is a good way to deal with areas that have spikes where there's like platforms that you have to jump on, because then you can just take the hits with the lightning magic and just jump across. See, that's where you had to go. It's kind of tricky to get there, but with the invincibility magic, it makes it much easier to get to areas like that. You can wall jump your way there, I'm sure, but it's a lot harder to do. So, I mean, I'd recommend, if you're having trouble with that, I'd probably recommend using that magic and just stepping on the spikes and jumping across. These crushers will kill you in one hit. So, if you're going to take damage, don't get hit by those. You know, it's better to get hit by the spikes or something else, but not those. Because those will be instant death. And in here is the boss, I believe. And I think I get my suicide magic ready for this guy because I'm not good at him either. So, you'll see my cheap tricks here. I think I was deciding, that's why there was a bit of a pause. I was deciding if I should, or what I should do next. I don't know if I remembered exactly. But yeah, try to hit him when he appears. And, you know, when your life gets low, try to use your suicide magic if you need to, like I did. You know, when he's available to hit. Because I think otherwise, I think if you use it at the wrong time, he won't take any damage, but I'm not sure. I know some bosses are like that. I guess as long as you use it when the enemies are out attacking, when the shadows are out, it'll hit one of them. So, I guess it's not too hard, too hard to time the magics. You can also use the fire magic if you don't want to use the suicide magic, but in that case, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to kill him. If you don't damage him enough, obviously, then you won't end up beating him, then you'll just waste a life anyway, so. You can take a lot of damage in this game, though, so. I mean, it'll be a while before you probably need to do that. But yeah, that does a lot of damage to him if you need to use it. And you get your health back so you can continue fighting him instead of starting the fight over. And yeah, I think that's it for this boss. He does take a lot of hits. But, he's not too difficult if you try to play carefully and just try to dodge when you can. He's not that hard. And this is the final level. This part can be a little tricky. It's not bad if you take it slow, but there's a few tricky parts where you can get knocked into the pits if you're not careful. It's really not that hard. Just wait for that beam to disappear and then move fast. Same thing with the steam. Wait for it to disappear and then, make your jumps to the right. Nothing too challenging here. But, sometimes it can be easy to get sloppy and fuck up and lose a life. There's a decent amount of things you have to dodge, so it can be easy to fuck up on something, but overall, pretty easy part. As long as you take your time. This is where there's some tricky platforming parts coming up soon. This part I think is pretty easy. You just kind of play carefully, try to take out the enemies as they appear. I don't think there's anything too tricky to dodge here. But soon there's going to be some tough platforming coming up, and it's probably the hardest parts of the game. So those are the parts really I would recommend, definitely the hardest parts of the game, I would say. And I would say use save and load state to practice those sections. Because you don't want to get all the way over here like I did and then, you die because of that tricky platforming at the very end of the game. It's just a waste of time to do that, so you might as well just save and load state and just practice those parts. Make sure you have them down decently enough. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your time getting all the way back to the end and just repeatedly starting the game over. And then, you make the game hard by doing shit like that, 'cause it's inefficient practice, to just keep doing the whole game over because of one part. There are a few tricky parts, though, at the end. But you can use magic sometimes to step on some of the dangerous electricity parts and just bypass them, and that's what I ended up doing on some parts. You can kill those things, by stabbing them. It's more efficient than trying to throw shurikens at them, I think. Because the sword always does more damage up close, so I think you may have to kill those things. I'm not sure if you can just skip them. You may be able to. For whatever reason, I was killing them at the time. I don't know if that's because it was easier for me to just get rid of them. But I may have also not played this section over. I may have beaten it on the first time I got to it on this run. So I may have assumed that I needed to kill them. I think these things are worth killing because they only shoot diagonally, so they're very easy to kill and avoid. Jumping over them is a little tricky because, they could shoot you when you're jumping. That one's very easy to kill. You just pretty much just maybe duck and then stand and slice it. You got more of these diagonal shooting things. Same thing with this, just duck and then stand when it stops shooting and stab it. I think it shoots like three times before it stops to reload or whatever. So that's when you can hit it. I'm not sure if you can destroy those vents, but they're easy enough to dodge. That thing's a little bit annoying, so try to kill those if you can. I see things are getting a little messy at this point. So yeah, try to play it better than that. Yeah, more of these assholes. I mean, this scene does go on for a while, so I guess it can be a little tricky. There's a few parts that are a little challenging with all those assholes. I decided to just run past it at the end, because, once the door is available, you can just kind of rush. But this is where it gets tricky, in my opinion. I found these parts to be the hardest. Not so much this part, but there's going to be, like, some very thin platforms you have to navigate, and those parts can be tricky. Here you want to fall down and then, like, then grab the wall and do your wall jumps. Luckily, the electricity doesn't one-hit kill you, or it would be much, much harder. So you do get chances to correct yourself. Some of those platforms fall, though, so those will kill you instantly, so be careful. I use lightning magic here because I find it easier than wall jumping to just stand on the electricity. And you'll see how I do it. I prefer doing it this way. But if you're good with the wall jumps, you can wall jump your way through here. You don't have to do that. Now you get a checkpoint here. That's why you saw me edit it out, the death. So you do at least get a checkpoint here, I believe. That's why I edited it. But you're nearing the end of the game now. So there are still some tricky parts. I believe there's one tricky jumping part that's especially tricky toward the end. That's the main challenge remaining, but it's really not that hard. But I would recommend, like I said, practicing some of these segments with save and load states, just to, playing on an emulator, just to like make sure you have it down. I think you have to wait a while for the platform to come back if you missed it. I think it does come back eventually. Yeah. So yeah, ride this platform and, get off of it when he's going to go through the electricity, when the platform's going through the electricity. And, just move along this ceiling here. It's not too hard. Just have to avoid shit when it's coming up. You know, when you see the electricity coming up, you know, get off the platform. It's kind of a slow, easy part, though. Now, here's some challenging jumps here, I believe. This is with those thin little platforms. Let them go down a little bit before you jump across. Otherwise, you know, you'll jump very high and electrocute yourself and fall in the hole and die. That can be tough. So you want to be safe with that. And you are starting to get near the end now at this point. There's a magic up there, so, you know, try to jump up at the peak of that platform and get that magic up at the top. Because it's going to be worth having for the boss. You know, the last boss can be tricky, so you're probably going to want to spam some magic if you can. And this might be the final tricky segment, platforming-wise. So, you know, these parts like this are just going to take some practice, so... You know, if you need to, like I said, practice with save and load states. Otherwise, you're going to be having to redo large segments over and over again. And there's a 1-up. So I'd say get that. No reason not to. Unless you're doing a speed run. Let's see what's coming up here. I don't remember, but I use the invincibility for a reason. So I think I may stand on the electricity. Yeah, let me see. Maybe I run across. I'm not sure what I did. Or maybe I just found it useful because the walls are kind of, you know, the walls are hard to dodge. So I was probably having problems with that. I think that's what it was. Okay, yeah. No, this might be the last tricky segment, if I remember. I haven't played this in a while. Maybe not. No, I guess the rest of the level was pretty easy after you beat some of those harder parts. This part's not too hard. You're just going to be wall jumping up to the top. You just don't want to fall, obviously. You want to make sure you get all your wall jumps. Because you will get crushed eventually if you're not fast enough. It gets a little tricky when the electricity appears, so you want to try to space yourself properly. Sometimes you need to let yourself fall down a little bit, then do the wall jump so you don't jump right into the electricity like that. So, you know. This might be another part. If you find this challenging, you may want to practice this with save states again, but you know, I didn't find it to be too difficult. Because you can take some hits and still keep going. It's a little tricky, though. Alright, let's see what the hell... I don't know how I got out of this. This is getting a little crazy here. Maybe... Oh, okay, I guess I used invincibility. That's crazy, yeah. I guess I was able to make it out of that somehow. By using the invincibility. So I guess if you need to, you can always do that if you play it that bad. So now, I get my suicide magic ready for the last boss. I'm pretty sure I end up using it. At this point, you don't need to really conserve lives, so because you're at the end of the game. This is the final boss. So, again, I have no good tips for this boss, really, so I'm just going to be watching it and observing it. But, you know, I pretty much was just taking hits, and I just kept throwing shurikens at him. I didn't really know how to dodge any of his moves. I barely practiced this guy at all because I really didn't need to. You know, since I knew I could just bullshit my way through it. I mean, the game, like I said, is really not that hard on normal. And easy, you get 9 lives, so it's even, you know, on each continue, so. I believe you get 3 continues in this game. The difficulty seems to mainly affect how many lives you start with, but it probably, you know, I'm sure the game gets harder as well. But I didn't notice a huge difference from easy to normal. But yeah, when your life gets low, just, you know, if you have it, just use your suicide magic to stay alive and keep the fight going. Hopefully you have a few lives left at this point. But yeah, he does start doing different things. As you damage him more, he'll start doing some different moves. But as you say, I wasn't really dodging much. You know, I was trying to dodge what I could, but I really didn't know this boss. But yeah, he will be dead soon. Let me see. I use the fire poles now because I have no lives left to suicide. So, if I died, I would have had to use a continue. I think you do. I think you get a checkpoint at the boss at least. So if you use a continue, you may continue at the boss. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, not much else to say. But thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any other suggestions or games that you want to see tutorials on or runs. And thanks for watching.